Yes, I've got another unboxing for you. Hi, I'm Scott Rodell here at the Academy of Chinese Swordsmanship, and Sordier has sent me one of their Dadao. They call it the Military Dadao Chinese Resistance War Saber. And as you can see, I did pop it open a little bit. I haven't peeked. It came from China, so it was a box inside of a box, and just sort of save all of that and the mess I made. I took that off earlier, but I haven't peeked inside. I just popped open the tape. So let's see what we've got here. A pretty long one for a Dadao. Dadao, of course, were not a pattern weapon. And during the War of Resistance against the Japanese invasion of mainland China, they came in all sort of shapes and sizes. So let's see what we got here. This is why I took off the box on the outside, so I'd save all the time there. All right, let's see. Looks pretty good, pretty nice. So first thing I'd say is, historically speaking, it looks pretty much right on. Now, again, as I said earlier, there was no pattern to these weapons. So you might see one that's a little bit different curvature, different tip, different length, and say, hey, that's quite different. And that is true, because they were being made all over China to supply their troops. China, unfortunately, didn't really have enough weapons to fight the Japanese when they invaded, didn't have enough firearms. So a lot of people were armed with just these. The Sordier calls this their military Dadao, the Chinese Resistance War Saber. So they're thinking Second World War, carried by the famous Dadao Dui, the famous 29th. They use these for nighttime raids. You can imagine the courage of those men to run into a Japanese camp. And, you know, those soldiers, many soldiers would have been sleeping, but those who weren't had firearms, had rifles, officers would have had pistols. And to run into a camp like that and do just a sword, or maybe some of the Chinese officers probably also had sidearms, but to just run amok through the camp and take out as many of the Japanese as you can with these. So the 29th were really famous for those nighttime actions. Just generally speaking, too, for Dadao, you know, it's hard to define exactly what a Dadao is, not being a pattern weapon. But generally, what you'll find is that, as I can here, you can wield it with one hand without a problem, but it has this long grip, so you can really give a good solid finishing cut. Or if you're just running, you have to just give a baseball bat kind of cut and keep going. You can do that. First thing I'm always interested in is this blade historically accurate? And I would say, yes, this one is. Its blade form, the shape of the guard, definitely historically accurate. This blade form went back into the Qing dynasty. You know, Dadao, of course, weren't only wielded during the Second World War, but also were wielded during the Qing period. I was recently in Hangzhou visiting the Sword and Scissors Museum. Yes, it's sword and scissors. I don't know why. And there was a Qingdao that really looked very much like this one in blade profile. I think the one that I recall was a little less curved, but very, very similar to this. And again, they're not pattern weapons. One's produced here, one's produced there, are not going to be exactly the same. And there's a great variety of length and weights. Also, this particular model is very similar to one in the Practical Dadao manual. That was a manual created during the Second World War for training soldiers like those of the famous 29th. And if you're interested in learning that Practical Dadao system, at the Academy of Chinese Swordsmanship, we have a whole course for you. So check out the link below for that if you'd like to learn how to wield one of these, this Practical Dadao system of fighting. Let's look at the stats really quick. First thing I want to point out is this is a sword under 200 bucks. And when we're evaluating any sword, I think it's fair we got to evaluate by the price point. So under $200, that's really inexpensive. Weight is given from their website at 996 grams. That's a little over 2 pounds, about 2.1 pound. Blade length is 70 centimeters, about 30 inches. That's a little bit on the long side for many Dadao of the period, but definitely also saw ones of this length. So as I said, they did vary quite a bit. The guard is stainless steel. They said that means it has to have at least 10% chromium. looks, I'm not doing chemical analysis, I'll take their word for that. And also that spring, the blade is spring steel. It is very springy. The one thing I would note is that this blade is not as heavy or thick. It's not quite as stout as either Qing or World War II examples. I'd say that it's a lot more flex. You see that? I'm not flexing it very hard, very far. A lot more flex. Yeah, so that edge is really quite sharp, quite a thin blade, so it should really cut well. But let's go outside, put it to the test on some bamboo and see how it performs. Okay, so that performed pretty well. I would say it cut well, certainly cut well enough. So would I recommend this particular Dadao? Well, again, I mean, under 200 bucks, it's hard to go wrong. I would say that though it's a little bit on the light side. So if you're newer to practice, so I'd say qualified, yes. How's that? To be fair. And I really think we should always keep in mind the price point when we're buying a sword. We can't compare a sword that's for sale under $200, this company or anybody else, any company with a sword that's a, hundreds or thousands of dollars sword. You can't compare a Subaru with a Ferrari. They're different kinds of things. But I'd say for this price, quite a nice sword for under 200 bucks. For a beginner, it's an excellent sword because it's relatively light, it's well balanced, it's properly balanced. So if you're starting off in your practice and you're ready for a sharp sword, this would be a good one because because it's balanced properly. And that's going to give you the feel you want in your practice. And practicing with a sharp sword is, of course, quite different than a dull sword. For a more experienced practitioner, I would like something a little bit more robust, a little heavier, a little more of the feel of the old sword. Having said that, that doesn't mean this isn't a good sword for somebody with more experience. Often, like if I come back from a seminar, I've been teaching a couple weeks on the road, I like to have a lighter sword to train with so that, if your arm needs a break, you have something that's properly balanced. That's important, properly balanced. So I'm not getting any misinformation in my practice, but it's not so heavy, doesn't have that torque. It's not going to pull on my arm if I need that little bit of a break. So I would definitely say a recommended buy. And I would also suggest if you've got a school where you practice Dadao, these would be great for beginners. As beginners, this might not be a sword that your more experienced practitioners would want to purchase, but for a school that teaches Dadao, that has it in their curriculum, to have some of these swords as loaners as students progress. Maybe beginners, of course, give them a sharp sword, but when they're ready for a sharp sword, you give them these to train within the school. That's also a really good idea. Let me know what you think. We always want to hear back your feedback. If you've had another experience, please do share that below. Don't forget to hit the like button. Maybe give us a join, hit that join button. Until next time, stay strong, everybody. 再见.